Okay, so I'm going to talk about all these FCC rules and regulations. It's not clear to me which is which. Um, yep. Huh? Oh, yeah. And in some cases, I've actually put them in there, and you can tell they were written by lawyers. So, first section is some of the different frequency privileges, what's different about general and uh, extra, the ranges, message forwarding, what to do about if you're on a ship or an aircraft. And then they threw in some stuff on the relatively new 630 and 2200 meter bands. So both advanced and extra, uh, and there's still a lot of advanced around, actually. People don't want to give it up because you can't get a new one. Basically can operate on 80, 40, 20, and 15. There's some subsegments that are exclusive just to extras. In the general class, they basically have all amateur privileges for the 160 up through 10, excluding those extra subbands. And then there's a limitation on 80 meters of only doing CW between that 3525 and 3600 kilohertz. So which HF bands have segments exclusively allocated to amateur extra licenses? On which HF and or MF amateur bands are there portions where general class licenses cannot transmit?
Same question.
Yeah.
Same occurs.
Let's see if they're paying attention. For general, usually the upper end of the voice segment is available for a general class. As I recall, and these are hard for me to remember, the extra subbands are down at the lower end of voice. For single sideband on 80 meters, it's 3,800 to 4,000 kilohertz or 3.84 megahertz. 40 meters, it's 7.175 to 7,300, which is the top. 20 meters, 14,225 to 14,350, which is also the top end. And 15 is 21,275 to 21,450. I don't remember, but I'm assuming that's the top end. I have to get my little card out.
Yeah. Yeah. 15 meters. 225 and 275. Careful.
When general class licensees are not permitted to use the entire voice portion of a band, which portion of the voice segment is generally available to them?
Wow.
On which of the following frequencies are general class licensees prohibited from operating as control operator?
Yeah.
That may be the extra subsegment. I don't really remember. Do you remember, Dan?
What's that?
Was this the extra subsegment on 40?
Which 40? Extra is 7.125 through 7.3. So that would be 8.
Well, but general can't do
Yeah,
that lower.
7.175, according to the ARRL chart, is 7.175 through 7.3
for general,
for general.
right? So this is the excluded for extra.
Yeah.
Which of the following frequencies is within the general class portion of the 15-meter band? For 10 meters, general has all privileges and can operate CW across the entire band. Although I think that's true for CW
I think
privileges on all bands, right?
CW is across all the.
Even though it's usually on the low end. On which amateur frequencies in the 10-meter band may stations with a general class control operator transmit CW emissions? For repeaters on 10 meters, general can be a control operator in the 29.5 to 29.7 megahertz band. I don't know that we have any 10-meter repeaters around here. But if we did.
There was one nearby, but I think, I've never tried to get on it, so I don't really know.
What portion of the 10-meter band is available for repeater use? When may a 10-meter repeater retransmit the 2-meter signal from a station that has a technician class control operator? It's kind of a red herring in there. Well, we hadn't talked about special temporary authorization yet. That's at the end. And it's not an emergency. As long as the control operator is a general class, doesn't matter.
I mean, it's just a repeater, so it's only frequency.
Right. The fact that it came from a 2-meter and he's retransmitting it.
So according to the repeater book, there is one in Cocoa.
Really? Operational?
Oh, no, never mind, that's 6 meters.
No.
Yeah, no 10-meter repeaters, all 6.
30 meters. The generals have limited operation. They can do RTTY from 10.13 to 10.14 packet radio, which I guess is WinLink, Pactor, that kind of stuff. from 10.14 to 10.15. No phone and no images on 30. I guess image also means no slow scan.
TV, that's not.
Which of the following bands is phone operation prohibited?
Um, Yeah, I was just looking at how much there is, how much room there is on 30 meters, and you've only got 50 kilohertz.
Yeah,
It's a pretty narrow band.
I know.
Is that creating one too, something?
What's that?
The digital protocols?
Yeah,
Is it on grid or something?
yeah, it's all, it shows up as all red on the chart, which is Rivian data only.
On which of the following bands is image transmission prohibited? Uh-oh. Uh, 60 meters. Oh, that's a really fun one. It's divided up into 5 channels. Secondary. I think it's the military primarily. You're limited to 100 watts peak effective power relative to a half-wave dipole. And you can use phone on upper sideband and do CW, RTTY, and other data. For CW, you have to be in the middle of each of the bands. And they're, 5330.5, 5346.5, 5357, 5371.5, and 5304.5. And they're only what, 5-6 kilohertz or 2.8? Yeah, it's very narrow.
Yeah, they're.
No.
Yeah, 2.8 kilohertz. So, and if you look at the chart does everything for you. If you look at the ARRL chart, it tells you what frequency to use for CW or digital. And then, it shows you what frequency to use. So the frequency you use for upper sideband, there, so you've got 5330.5, which is outside, okay? So they've got it right, that frequency you see right there is the one you use for 5330.5 is the frequency that you would use for the first channel.
For upper sideband?
Below what it's supposed to be, but by the time you do upper sideband, you're 3 kilohertz higher than that.
Right.
So you're on the 5332 with that. So, yeah, the chart is self-explanatory when you look at it.
I got it on.
You don't get stuck on the numbers and look at how it's all laid out.
Yeah, you don't have to remember those numbers.
Not on the test.
Which of the following amateur bands, if they are, I'd miss it. Which of the following amateur bands is restricted to communication only on specific channels rather than frequency ranges? Wonder what that is. On 30 and 60, amateur radio is a secondary user, so we share it. So we have to defer to the primary, whoever that is, and we're not supposed to interfere. Either we change frequencies or negotiate. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, when you negotiate as a secondary, I think you move.
Yeah. Which of the following applies when the FCC rules designate the amateur service as a secondary user on a band? Okay. One of their big things is to ensure that you stay within band or sub-band. I guess it's more case like a general not getting into the extra sub-band. So there's several questions about, how close do you operate to the lower end of the band or the higher end of the band, depending on whether you're doing upper or lower sideband or CW. Basically, you want to stay with maybe a little bit of margin so that you're inside the band regardless. You might have an old radio that has a mechanical tuning knob, and you don't know how accurate that is. Here's some of the legalese, if you'd like to read it. Yeah, I kind of wondered what they refer to as pulse modulation. I guess that's digital.
We really are.
On these frequencies?
You would be surprised.
Okay. On 20 meters, the 14 to 14.15 is allocated to RTTY and data. And the next one up, 1.5 to 3.5, is for phone and image. So what's the highest legal carrier frequency on the 20-meter band for transmitting a 2.8 kilohertz wide USB data signal?
Joe was inside the data set.
Yeah.
You have to be below it. Or above that, is 150 is the end of the data set. It's actually
You almost need a calculator.
So there is.
Yeah.
It isn't
Huh?
14147, that's in the data set.
Yeah, well, it said data.
Oh, you asked me, I missed the data, I'm sorry. Okay.
Upper sideband data.
I was looking at upper side the data, I was signal was. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to read all the words.
No, that's a requirement.
Yeah, it helps.
But you see, I had 2.8 dollars, and this immediately think voice.
Yeah, voice.
Yeah.
Well, what data transmits it?
Well, FT8 uses the whole 3 kilohertz. It's data, upper sideband.
But that's the whole segment, man, but an individual signal from.
Well, if it was up at the upper end, it's going to be outputting a 3 kilohertz tone, modulating at 50 hertz variation. Why is it not legal to transmit a 3 kilohertz bandwidth upper sideband signal with a carrier frequency of 14.348? So we don't care what kind of signal, it's just on upper sideband. So you're kilohertz over. Let's see. Oh, this is more about staying 3 kilohertz above the lower band edge if you're doing lower sideband on 40 or 80. Not sure why they singled out 40 and 80 because it's true for any of them. And on 80, it's 3.5 to 3.6 for the CW for basically data and CW. 3.6 to 4 for phone and image. When using a transceiver that displays the carrier frequency of phone signals, which of the following displayed frequencies represents the lowest frequency at which a properly adjusted lower sideband emission will be totally within the band? Just have to question why A isn't right. Has something to do with the properly displayed frequency, I think. Because for lower sideband, you're doing from wherever it says up, correct? No, you're right. I didn't read it.
Now you can see it happens in the best of it, right?
Yeah, I'm supposed to know these. I did once. May an extra class operator answer the CQ of a station on 3.601 megahertz lower sideband phone? That's a yes or no answer. Let's see. Yeah. Message forwarding. Things like WinLink, VAR-AC kind of works the same way. I assume there's others where you can send messages and have them forwarded at a different time, kind of like put it in a mailbox or something, and somebody, checks in and picks it up. Like the satellites we talked to on store and forward also.
Okay, what they
The
doing?
control.
Oh, okay. I ain't going uptown then.
The control operator is always responsible of the originating station, not the forwarding control operator, because nothing they can do about it. So the onus is on the originator of the message, which is, prohibited, whatever it is. So you're supposed to stop forwarding the communication as soon as you become aware, but that's really all you can do. And if you're a control operator for a repeater, I assume there's no requirement that you monitor all the transmissions. So you wouldn't even necessarily know that it's going on. So
Yeah, I don't recall any requirement to monitor full time, that
no, there's
the requirements are if you notice something going on.
right. As soon as you become aware, if you never become aware, then you never have to do it.
And just talk to Steve, he'll tell you that people will let you know.
If a station in a message forwarding system inadvertently forwards a message that is in violation of FCC rules, who is primarily accountable for the rules violation? Okay, ships and aircraft. Any FCC licensed amateur on a U.S. registered vessel in international waters can transmit, provided you have permission of the captain of the ship or the pilot of the aircraft. I don't know that the cruise ships let you, but legally, if they approve, you can do it. But if it's not a U.S. registered vessel, I don't know what the deal is. And most of them aren't. And this is just the legalese for all that stuff. I highly doubt they would let you do it on an aircraft. Unless it was a military thing or something. What licensing is required when operating an amateur station aboard a U.S. registered vessel in international waters? Bravo. If an amateur station is installed aboard a ship or aircraft, what condition must be met before the station is operated? So you need a control operator. And you know. I guess the bottom line of that is you have to have a physically present control operator. I don't think they allow you to operate on a ship or aircraft remotely. Who must be in physical control of the station apparatus of an amateur station aboard any vessel or craft that is documented or registered in the United States? Okay, the 630 and 2200 meters. Really don't know a whole lot about those. You are limited to 100 watts peak effective power on the 60-meter band. It kind of includes 60 with these other odd ones. I guess the 630 and 2200 are also channelized. Does that show up on the chart?
It does not indicate that they're channel.
Okay. But we are secondary users on those also, so those same rules apply. You have to not interfere.
Yeah, 2200 says it's 1 watt VIRP.
Yeah,
Actually, they both.
I think it's 5 watts on 630 and 1 watt on 2200.
Unless you're near.
Yeah, 1 watt, 5 watts on 630, except for within 496 miles of Russia. So parts of Alaska is not going to be able to,
Okay.
they will only be able to do 1 watt.
Yeah, this chart is showing the 5 and the 1. So you're limited to 1.5 kilowatts peak effective power, provided you don't exceed 1 watt effective isotropic radiated power, which means you go into a dummy load.
Very inefficient in that.
Yeah, efficiency stuff.
And on 630, that's really weird. You're limited to 500 watts PEP and 5 watts EIRP. Yeah. Did you say 800? This is 800 kilometers.
800 kilometers, I guess, is roughly 496 miles. That's what it says on the
Okay.
ARL chart, is 496 miles. I was kind of wondering where that 496 came from. That makes sense since Mercia is probably on the metric system.
And there's the little formula for converting EIRP to get effective radiated power.
Somewhere or another, I've seen that 2.15 before.
Yeah. What's the required transmit frequency of a CW signal for channelized 60-meter operation? What's the maximum power permitted on the 2200 meter band? Charlie. Except in some parts of Alaska, what's the maximum power permitted on the 630 meter band? Okay, so we talked about the exclusive segments on 80, 40, 20, and 54 extra. And general can't transmit on those subbands on 80, 40, 20, and 15. And general class can use the upper portion of the voice segment on those 4. General cannot be a control operator in that 7.125 to 7.175 band. You can do CW across the entire band. Not sure why they brought that up for 10 meters, because I think that's true for all bands on CW. There's restricted repeater privileges on 10 meters at 29.5 to 29.7. 30 meters limited to RTTY on those frequencies. Prohibited phone and image on 30 meters. 60 meters is weird. I don't know who uses it. Actually, I just saw some emails the other day about whether or not they were going to get ARL to accept 60-meter stuff in contests or for awards. So there's kind of some issue going on. And I guess part of the response back was they need to use it in order to keep the frequency, but they basically nobody uses it because of the conditions. And you can't use it to apply for awards or for contests.
Yeah.
And on 30 and 60, we're secondary users, so we have to defer to the primary. Big thing is staying in band, regardless of which band it is. So you have to look at your upper, lower side band and read the question. If you're doing any kind of forwarding, the originator is the one responsible. But if you realize it's going on, you should stop. Anybody can transmit aboard a ship or aircraft if it's U.S. licensed in international waters. I assume that also means U.S. territory, provided you have approval of the pilot or the captain. And we did these, those are fairly easy to remember short term. So might be remember that for 2 weeks.